you very much, Sunny. Thank you very much, Sabrina, for inviting me here. Wow, what a fantastic meeting. I didn't think there'd be so much energy this early in the morning, and so many roles to cover, and everyone did a brilliant job. That was really well done. So first off, I think it was Gemma who met me downstairs. She pointed me in the right direction, and I met Daniel, who took me up in the lift. And then I was met by Julie, who gave me my name tag, and then who was it? It was Luke, who took me to my throne, which is great. I can see everything that's going on. I didn't call it the throne, somebody else called it the throne, so I'm just going to continue that. So I thought, what a warm, friendly welcome and such great energy that this club has. Sabrina, your president, opened the meeting, and I loved how she started here singing out song lyrics, something that's probably that I'd probably like to copy, but would like to be brave enough to do. And also from that moved into talking about the Beatles and how hard the Beatles worked to become the biggest band in the world, and then left with a great message about how, you know, could you be Toastmasters Beatles, which I thought was a fantastic message. Question for us all to think about in the meeting. Maybe there's one thing I think maybe could have talked a little bit more about Toastmasters or the club, maybe why it's different. But that was a great introduction. And then on to Sonny, our Toastmaster. He introduced himself to me, which I thought was great. And I thought the thing that Sonny did best was he made the job of being Toastmaster look easy. And I know from personal experience it isn't that easy, so well done there. I also liked that I assume prepared beforehand that you had a few that Sonny had a few sort of like words or like a line, just as a sort of a teaser for the people doing the roles, for the people who are speaking, and that was great. And I think the only thing I can think of is maybe that instead of that you could have carried on the theme of the Beatles or songs, but that was great. Well done, Sonny. And then Scott, our timekeeper. I was so impressed by your booming presence, and the timekeeper, you know, is the person who really is in charge of the meeting. I love the flag, such a classy touch for such a grand old meeting room, and the use of the bell was also good to see. So the only thing I can really think of was maybe when Scott was reading out the table topics speeches, and then sort of let on that he forgot to give some of the times. I thought that was great. It was a very funny moment and moved on. Maybe could have offered to, I'm sure he has the times, that if you were the table topic speakers, he could have said, come to me later and I'll tell you how long you spoke for. And then back to Luke, who's so friendly in bringing me to a throne. And I thought it was great that you give yourself the opportunity to introduce guests, so everybody gets to speak at a meeting. And one line I really enjoyed was about that we all started out as guests, and it made me think of a line I heard about an old, I think it was a karate master in Japan who's buried with his white belt because he always wanted to be known as a learner, and I think that's a great sort of lesson to think of. The only thing is, obviously, there's a lot of guests, and it ran on a little bit, and I did like how Luke intervened towards the end, but maybe he could have sped things up a little bit sooner. And then on to Nina's role as the table topics master, which I thought was fantastic, again carrying on the song themes. And what I liked about the song lyrics being given as titles gave the speakers a great chance to sort of go whichever way they wanted to, which I really enjoyed, and it gave some really interesting answers. And then on to Ian, who was our table topics evaluator. I really liked how Ian put his notes aside and he barely glanced at them. And I was just very impressed by Ian's performance as an evaluator. Maybe one thing would be not to sort of signpost so much, you know, when a recommendation's coming, and maybe try and smooth that in a little bit more. But I thought that was great. There's a real evaluation is obviously a leadership role, and there was a real sort of sense of caring, of, you know, wanting people to do well and show what they did do well and a few things that they could improve on. And there was some really insightful recommendations, I thought, so well done. And then Catherine was the interviewing, the speeches, and I thought she asked some really great questions that I think we all may have wanted answers for. I'm sure a lot we did from the speakers, and that was great to tease out maybe something a little bit more about the speeches and something else about the speakers. So that was great. And on to Cassandra, who was our first, sorry, I lost Cassandra, who was onto our first evaluator. I can't actually think of any recommendations. What I thought was great, again, about evaluation being a leadership role was how encouraging Cassandra was to fill it, and also what she took, what she enjoyed from the speech. And I like that when Cassandra did give a recommendation, it was something like she gave an action on how to improve it, as opposed to being quite vague. There was a clear path to how to improve that. Paul is evaluating, Lynn's speech. I like Paul's structure. It was fantastic. You know exactly where you are, where you were in his speech evaluation. I think something to maybe think about for the next speech evaluation is to sort of wean off the notes and maybe over smaller cards, or maybe just try and use them less as a crutch. But I thought there were some great recommendations, clearly very attentive to the speech he was evaluating. And then on to Simon. I really enjoyed how Simon had spoken to the speaker beforehand. I mean, you can obviously tell from the agenda what the speaker's speech objectives are, but often we will all have things that we've seen from feedback and evaluations before that we want to work on. So I thought that was great that Simon was able to get that, and that helped to focus. I'd say similar about the notes, maybe try to make them smaller or wean yourself off them. I really enjoyed your joke about Ernesto's Marvel t-shirt, and also and linking that to a speech. I thought that was great. But all in all, I thought it was a great meeting. Thank you for having me, and well done.